Welcome to the Badass Fertility Podcast. I am your host, Kathryn Bregman. I am a certified life coach taught directly by Marianne Williamson, a former teacher and recovering people pleaser. I spent years struggling to become pregnant before I discovered the power of mindset to change my outcomes. When I became pregnant with my miracle girl at 40, I realized that relying on fixes focused solely on the body is an outdated method of solving the pregnancy puzzle for many, many women. So I developed my unique badass fertility method that helps women around the world become the moms they are meant to be. If you are ready to stop living your journey in a state of fear, isolation, and deprivation, and bring joy back into your life while removing the blocks between you and your baby, then you are in the right place. So let's get started. Okay, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. I'm so happy to have you here and so honored and excited to introduce to you our very, very special guest, Kathryn Hollingsworth of Red Sage Acupuncture. If you tuned into our episode last week, you would have heard my amazing conversation with her. And if you haven't heard part one of this conversation, I strongly encourage you to go back, pause this episode, go back, listen to part one, because it's going to give you context for what we're talking about today. Okay. So for those of you who didn't listen in though, and you want to know a little bit about Kathryn, let me just tell you a little bit about her right now. So Kathryn Hollingsworth of Red Sage Acupuncture is a licensed and board certified acupuncturist. She began practicing in 2015 and is currently located in Charlotte, North Carolina. Alongside her acupuncture training, Kathryn has trained professionally in intuition, which she uses in her practice as a tool for reading her clients' energy. She also does one-on-one readings for clients that also serve as healings. Her work with energy is an important part of how she treats her clients in the acupuncture clinic. She feels that by observing a client's subtle energies, she is able to learn some of the causes of their symptoms, as well as the current state of the 5-element energetics that govern physical and emotional health. Beyond her work at the acupuncture clinic, Kathryn has served as visiting faculty at the Academy for 5-Element Acupuncture and written for Acupuncture Today. She also continues to work in the creative arts. Welcome, Kathryn.
Hey, good morning.
Good morning. So I am so excited to jump right in with you and pick up where we left off last week. So again, just as a quick recap for those who are just joining us, we were talking about the value of acupuncture for fertility. And then we took the conversation another step forward and we started talking about how when you are treating your clients, you have found that some of them greatly benefit from acupuncture alone. So if there's a physical sort of something out of alignment, acupuncture is a wonderful tool for putting that back in place, and those women can be successful on their journeys. And then there's another group of clients for whom just working on that physical plane hasn't seemed to be enough. And you talked about a particular amazing miracle story where you met with a woman who was had tried everything. It sounded like she was ready to move to IVF, right? And you said to her, "Give me 2 months." Right. And I love this so much. You said, "Give me 2 months." And then you advised her, stop, worrying about everything you eat. Stop tracking your cycle. Stop, doing all of the things that you've been doing that are stressing you out, so to speak. Right. And she followed your advice. And then you said within 3 weeks, she was pregnant, which is like, oh my God. Okay. So as I'm thinking about this, right, I think it's so amazing. And I can understand on like an intuitive level what you're talking about in terms of the shift that you were trying to encourage her to make. But I was wondering if you could kind of take a step back with us for our listeners and just lay out why, from your perspective, why is that the advice you gave? And why do you think it worked? Okay, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say that because, we know that diet helps, right? We know that tracking your cycle helps. We know that looking at your numbers helps. And so yet by not doing those things, she got pregnant. So so what is going on?
So I mentioned this last time, and I'll just say it again for our listeners that I've noticed over the years that the people who successfully get pregnant that come to me are the ones that say, I'm trying to get pregnant, but that's not what I want to work on with you.
That's right. You mentioned that.
Right there, you have a kind of an equanimity towards the concept of getting pregnant. There's a kind of a trust. And the ones that I see that come in that are frazzled, and we'll talk about that state of being frazzled.
Yeah.
They don't get pregnant. And over the years, I thought, okay, I'm seeing something. I'm seeing a pattern here.
Right.
The ones that are sad, the ones that feel terrible, those are the ones that don't get pregnant. So this woman, I just took a chance with her and I said, because what I saw in her, and granted, I read energy every day, but we all can feel our own energy, right?
Right.
To some degree. And I'll kind of get some guidance on that. If you can get
I would love to talk about that.
Yeah. So she was, I would describe it kind of buzzing. She was like, ooh, like everything was like, ooh-ah, heat way up. Like, and she's kind of that way anyway, but that's her nature. And some people just run hot like that, but she wasn't settled.
Yeah.
And I just took a chance with her. I'm not usually that. I just said, hey, I want to help this woman.
Yeah.
What's the best thing I can tell her to do? I want her to get pregnant, just like she wants to get pregnant. So what is the one piece of advice I can tell her? Stop doing all that stuff because your energy is not, it's not in a good place.
Right.
If you're walking around frazzled all day, you're just not in a good place. And the good place is what we want to get to.
Wow. Okay. So for some people, it might be that, looking at the numbers or tracking the cycle, that could give them a sense of empowerment or knowledge that can work for them. And for other people, when you take it too far, and I know, I am an example of this too. Like when I was struggling to get pregnant, I reached a point where it was like, I'll just do anything, like anything you tell me, I will do. Right. And that is so not the place that we actually want to be when we are trying to have a baby. Right? The place that you're talking about, you mentioned being aligned with your own energy, reading and understanding your own energy. That's something that I talk about a lot with my clients as well. And we talk about it more in terms of like being able to hear your own gut instinct, right? Like tuning into that inner wisdom, that quiet voice that knows what you need to do, right? That knows you need to take a break or knows you need to try this new whatever thing, acupuncture maybe, who knows, right? But who knows that you need to do something that maybe you're not letting yourself do or you're not seeing. So I was wondering if we could jump over to what you were saying about feeling your own energy and tell me a little bit about that. When you talk about that with your clients, what does that mean?
So, actually I've been following your Instagram. I love it. And I've seen that you've been posting about words lately. Right?
Yes.
And I thought that was a really good illustration of this concept of energy.
Okay.
Just as a starting point. So I think we all know what it feels like to feel calm, right? Feels great. Mm-hmm. I think we all know what it's like to feel stressed, right? Does not feel great.
Yeah.
But there's so many shades, within energy. And so I was reading your statements. I'm going to kind of ad lib them here.
Go ahead.
I can't get pregnant because I'm infertile. I can't get pregnant because my eggs are poor quality.
Yes.
So I want everyone who's listening to, just for an energy exercise, think one of those thoughts to yourself, just for an energy exercise. So I can't get pregnant because my eggs are poor quality, right? Mm-hmm. So this is what I feel energetically. I feel closing.
Yes.
I feel a separation.
Yes.
Those are the things that I feel. What do you feel, Kathryn? Just for kicks.
I get a tightness in my chest. Like it just hurts. Like there's like tension and like grief almost that starts to well up.
Right. And you're not, for me, I'm not trying to get pregnant. I still feel that energy.
That's so interesting.
It had those words. Words are so powerful. Words are carriers of energy. It's just one way to illustrate it. But when you feel that sense of tightening, that's not where you want to be. You want to be open.
Right.
You want to be relaxed. So if you start watching your own energy, it takes some practice, but you can just check in with yourself once in a while, or check in with yourself when doesn't everyone also know what it's like to be Googling stuff?
Oh my God, yes.
Completely insane. Just like,
oh no, I've never done that.
Gets like this.
Yes,
like
exactly.
This, right? And that's literally happening. It's not your imagination.
Right.
That's what's happening with your energy, because this is what I do all day. I look at people's energy. I watch people's energy come back into harmony.
Wow.
So just think of that, and if you're talking about being in touch with yourself, you're talking about pulling your energy from out here, what all the other people are saying, and bringing it back to you.
Yes.
Feel how quiet that is when you do that?
Yes.
And you feel how you've called back your energy back to your own core.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That is where you want to be. So
go ahead.
That's how you kind of check in with your energy. What's happening with your body? Where's your attention?
So what would you suggest? How would you explain to someone in your clinic, in your practice, like when you find yourself Googling, right? And you feel that energy kind of getting scattered all around, right? Or when you find yourself believing your negative thought patterns, like I have no good eggs left, or things like that. What would you say? Like, how do someone who's just learning about this actually take what you're saying and practice it? Do you have like tips that you give people for that?
That's why I just jumped right into the stop doing all that stuff that,
just don't do it.
Just don't do it. No, it's like reading the news. I said that last week, reading the news. If you read, I understand that people want to be informed.
Got to be informed.
If you read the news, what happens to you? Are you more effective in the world, or are you less effective in the world?
Yeah.
Can you tend to the things that you have control of, or can you not?
Yeah.
Find a balance there. And that's just like with the news. This is the same thing. Figure out where your balance is, figure out, yes, you want to be informed. Yes, you want to know that your fertile time period is that, that period at about 14 days where you can conceive.
Most likely conceive. Yeah.
You can know that, you know?
Right.
But what happens to your sex life when you're freaking out because you got to do it today?
Exactly.
Like that's what I try to tell people. That's why if you just stop maniacally checking everything, that's where it goes to, right?
Yes. No, it totally does.
So that's the practice. We can be real specific with someone who's trying to conceive. That is the practice. Back up off of it.
It really is. And even in saying that, it's like, it sounds so like common sense, like, oh, just do it less. But the act of actually doing it less, right? The act of actually saying, you know what? I am not going to Google that symptom that I know I've Googled 15 times. And when I Google search it, all the top hits show up like they've already been clicked on. You know how that, like, it changes color. And I'm speaking from experience here because I am the queen of Googling pregnancy symptoms, right? Like when I was trying to conceive my daughter, I remember every single month it was the same thing. It was like, can a cramp potentially indicate pregnancy, right? Does like a certain type of vaginal fluid indicate pregnancy, right? Like and it was like the same questions every month. Does back pain indicate pregnancy? And what we find really, and what's so frustrating about the experience is, first of all, every single Google hit that would ever come up was already hit, and I would read it again, right? So like every month I'd be reading it again as if there was some sort of like knowledge that I didn't find before. And I think that when I finally let that go, when I finally realized like, okay, PMS symptoms and pregnancy symptoms can be the same thing. Like you're not going to know, like you're just not going to know. And when you get pregnant, you'll know, right? Like you'll know in yourself or you'll know from a test, but like trying to mastermind it and control it like that, or like see the unseeable, just gets you for more and more like disconnected from that state of being that we're talking about that you really want to cultivate. Right. So, so that is huge. And, you know, it's interesting because so many women who I talk to and work with are like always asking this question of like, well, how do I connect with that inner knowing? Right. Like that, like, it's like this big mystery, and it's something that's in all of us. Like we all have it, but we're so, I don't want to use the word socialized, but like raised in a culture where we are always looking outside of ourselves for the answers, right? And we always want to use logic and rationality to solve our problems. And I love logic and I love rationality, and I know it solves many problems, but it doesn't solve this one all the time.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes, that's absolutely true. Another kind of easy practice, I'm just going to throw another one out there, because how do you connect with your inner self? I think one of the things that you can do is just kind of sit with yourself. You know, what I tell people is sit with yourself like you're your best friend. What do you see? You know, what do you feel? What's going on?
Yeah.
Because you don't want to invalidate yourself. I mean, this topic
totally 100%.
Really simple, and then it gets really complicated.
Yes.
And it gets simple again. So I'm going to throw out a couple things.
Yes. Thank you.
Take up however we want. Number one, you don't want to invalidate yourself. So it is important to know what you're feeling, just like if you were your own best friend, which includes your fears and, you know, your desires. Because sometimes people actually don't want to get pregnant, actually. You know what I mean? Like they do, but they're not ready.
Yep.
And that's something to know.
Yes.
They do, but they're scared.
Right. Oh,
they do, but they know that their husband doesn't.
Yeah.
They do, but they're not sure what's going to happen in the next year.
Right.
They do, but their house isn't ready. You know, those are the things that you kind of like get to know about yourself. And you don't want to just, they call it spiritual bypassing. You don't want to just cruise past it and ignore everything for the sake of being positive.
Oh God, no. Yeah.
So that's like a whole other topic of conversation.
Yes.
That is a topic of mastery. I just wanted to throw that out there. The other thing to watch out for is fear. Because when you start, for example, let's say you stop checking, what's the first thing that's going to happen? The little fear voice is going to go, oh my God, I'm going to miss the window.
I was just thinking that when you said it.
So I wanted to tell people one of the best. Okay. So when you start listening to yourself and when you start tuning into the good vibrations, that fear voice gets really loud.
Yes,
so
definitely.
I love Marie Manucherry. Everyone should look her up. She also has a podcast. She has this saying. I don't know if she invented it, but the saying that she always says is fear is false evidence appearing real.
Yes. I love that. I use that a lot. I didn't know that it was her. I've heard it in different places, and we can say that again if you didn't catch it. Kathryn.
False evidence appearing real. Fear.
Remember
lies.
that.
Fear lies. And I had to confront that when I moved to Charlotte. I did this whole thing, the law of attraction, getting into a good place. Everything was flowing. And then this fear voice was like, you're making a big mistake. It gets very loud. And I had to remember that, and I had to ignore it. So when you're starting to tune into yourself, you want to discern that voice of fear and ignore it. Ignore it. It's just a secretary that lives in your mind that's trying to keep you safe. But that doesn't mean it's right.
Oh, that is so helpful.
Say, thank you. I hear you. I see you. I know you're trying to keep me safe, but I'm going a different route today.
That's beautiful. That's really, really beautiful and helpful, I think, for many, many people who are listening. So thank you.
And then the voice will go, you're not going to get pregnant, you know, and then you're not going to get, your friends are going to get pregnant before you, you know, all those things.
Totally.
You know, you can, and then you see what happens to your energy starts to go, start to scatter again.
Yes. And then when you start to get into that place, it can turn into a cycle of then making fear-based decisions, right?
Yes.
Like, I'm going to run out of time, so my only choice is to do IVF, or I haven't had any really I haven't had any egg retrievals that work. So I must have to use donor eggs, right? Like you start going back into that binary thinking that you were alluding to earlier when you were talking about the Instagram post and the different things that I had posted up there, right? Like these are things that we all, like mental traps that we fall into when we're afraid. And so what you're saying is when you think false evidence appearing real, right? That's what those things are, because the truth has so much more nuance to it, right? The truth is rarely black and white in this particular area. You know, like, yes, you may have this, and this medical issue, and you could still get pregnant, right? Like, so there's a lot there that's not black and white. Yeah.
Right. And anytime you catch yourself making decisions out of fear, first of all, that's going to generate more fear.
Absolutely.
But second of all, try to check yourself at that moment. That is another good tool. Okay. I'm scared right now. You know, have a little conversation with yourself, your own best friend. I'm scared right now. I'm scared this isn't going to happen for me. And back up a little bit. And then one of the things that you can do is do anything at all that makes you happy. And just because fear happens in the moment, it feels like it goes on and on because you when you get into that fear cycle, it feels moment to moment, it stacks up to days and weeks and months and years, right?
Yeah.
But it's happening in the moment. So it's in the moment that you can shift it. So no thought at all about pregnancy is better than a fear-based thought as far as like having it, you know, going in the direction that you're trying to go.
Right. And I agree.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead. I didn't mean to cut you off there.
If you're thinking I'm scared, I'm now I need donor eggs, you know, go outside and stick your hands in the dirt and think about something else. And in that moment, you have just shifted your energy.
Yes.
And then you practice.
Yes. Because then you can bring yourself back to center, and that's where you can make really great decisions. Donor eggs are wonderful for people for whom it's the exact right choice, right? IVF is wonderful for people for whom it's the exact right choice. All of the options are wonderful choices, and they're only wonderful if you're making them from a place of like centered decision making where you know it resonates and it's right for you. Doesn't mean it's an easy choice always, but when you can make that decision from a place of self-love, confidence, abundance, not fear, lack, or scarcity, you're going to be much happier with that decision.
Right. Yes, I want to say something about that as well. So one of the things I do with women that are trying to conceive is I have an energy exercise where we essentially clear off, I want to call it negative or, you know, unproductive energy, right? Okay. Out of your creation of wanting to become a mom. I did have a patient this was early on. She wanted to get pregnant, was doing all the things. She did IV, you know, she did everything. She did all the things. And when I did this energy exercise with her, what came out wasn't, oh, you need to, you know, go chill on the beach and be happy. It was, there are a lot of different ways to be a mom.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that's what she tapped into when she cleared her head. It wasn't, you know, I think it's really important that the point that you're making, because she was able to see that, she doesn't personally have to give birth to a child for her to be a mother. And she ended up making the choice to have a surrogate. And she has a beautiful baby boy now who's, I think, 4 or 5.
That's amazing.
And that was the right choice for her.
Yes.
And that's what came to when she was centered. And when she did that, her whole being settled. And she went forward with it and she did it. And now she's a mom.
So interesting you say that. It made me think of a woman that I was working with recently who came to me because she wanted to become a mom. And, you know, after going through the program for several weeks, she had her own realization that she wanted to become a mom through fostering children. And she had originally come thinking, well, I want to get pregnant, so I'm going to have to do this thing and I need to like work on whatever, my mindset, my body. And instead she just kind of realized like it had always been in the back of her mind. And she decided that was what she really wanted to do. So just to build on what you're saying, there are so many different ways that using mindset, the power of centering your energy, whatever you want to call it, when you come back to that place within yourself and you tune out all the chaos, and all the different competing fears and voices and suggestions and doctor's orders and whatever, and you get down into yourself, you can make those choices from a place of power. Right. And that's where you're going to be led to your greatest life, your greatest destiny, whatever it looks like. It will be perfect for you. Right.
Yes.
So we're going to start to wrap up, but I want to ask you, well, do you have time for one more question? Mm-hmm. Okay. So if someone listening today was to say, all right, I'm interested in using acupuncture for my fertility, right? What would you say to them? Like what can you tell our listeners today just about the value of acupuncture, the value of how to maybe choose an acupuncturist that works for you? Someone who's never done it before, what would you say to them?
So, a relationship with an acupuncturist is a very personal thing. I would say that you want to, again, have a conversation with yourself, decide what you want to get out of acupuncture, and then look online, kind of get a feel for what the person is about. I'm very into the energetics. Anybody who looks at my website will see that. There are acupuncturists who are, I think it's called ABORM. They're ABORM or something like that. It's a certifying body for acupuncture for fertility. If you are more of a scientific person and the energy thing doesn't resonate with you, find someone who has that certification.
Oh, that's good.
Specialize in the biological aspect of it. But I would say also, go in open-minded and try to trust your acupuncturist, because we're professionals. We do it every day. You don't have to believe in acupuncture. You just have to go in with an open mind and let them help you.
That's beautiful.
With whatever they think that you need.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. Well, we are so lucky to have you. I mean, I just cannot say enough about how amazing you are and what a difference. For anyone who didn't listen to episode 1, Kathryn was my acupuncturist many, many years ago. And if she was local, she'd be my acupuncturist today. Like, you are just absolutely a gift to the world. And the work that you do is helping and healing so many people, whether it's women who are struggling to conceive or whoever else walks through your door is just so lucky to find you. And we are so lucky to have you on our show today. If you want to learn more about how to work with Kathryn, there will be a link to her webpage in our show notes. And her web address is Red Sage Acupuncture. Is that right?
Red Sage Center.
Red Sage Center. Thank you. RedSageCenter.com. And that will be in the show notes, so you can check it out there too. So thank you so much, Kathryn, for joining us today. We are so, so lucky to have you.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Absolutely. Thank you. And so for those of you who are listening, thank you so much for joining us today on the Badass Fertility Podcast. Please rate, follow, and subscribe to our podcast. You can catch us wherever you listen to your shows on Apple, Spotify, and wherever you listen to your shows. Thank you and have a great day.